Hey, welcome everyone to the Secrets of Coaching podcast, where we sit down and uncover the strategies, mindset, and awesome stories of the most influential online digital coaches. I'm your host, Dino Gomez. Today we have Jenna Madden on the show. Jenna helps conscious entrepreneurs activate deeper levels of personal leadership in their business and grow to 6 and then 7 figures. She is also the co-founder of the company Soul Meets Strategy. Jenna, I am really pumped to chat with you today. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm super excited to be here and to contribute to your awesome tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody listening in, we have so much amazing content to get into today, including exercises we can all implement right now to attract more abundance into our lives. We're going to talk about an eco-friendly retreat and the softwares and tools and everything cool that Jenna is doing to grow her coaching business. But first, let's talk about a few years ago, Jenna, when you were in your 9-to-5 job. Tell us about that, because that wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, it was this August will be my 4-year anniversary since I left, and feels like a lifetime ago. Totally different chapter and season of my life. And it wasn't even a 9-to-5. It was like a 7-to-10 because I was on salary and working my ass off. And it really wasn't that glamorous. I was working in human resources and corporate leadership at a manufacturing plant for sheet metal. So that is where this all began.
For sheet metal. So you have a hidden expertise in sheet metal.
Yeah, and health and safety as well. It was a really interesting industry to get into because I kind of did what everybody, tells you that you should. I graduated high school. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life, so I went to business school, then went into getting a corporate job because I didn't know what else I would do with my life. So I got into this adulting job and started working full time. I was there for about 4 years and worked my way up to the top, at least in that part of the company where I was the manager and the go-to for those parts, where there was about 300 employees. And really, I was motivated to get into that because I thought I could help people. I spent a lot of time in recruitment and hiring people, but what I didn't really realize was essentially the leadership, the human resources, the safety in that setting was essentially adult babysitting. And I also got really good at firing people, which is so not my soul's purpose of crushing people's dreams that they don't have an income anymore. So it definitely wasn't my long time jam, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Firing people is never fun. I've had to do so myself, and it just doesn't resonate super well over here. But so you're in the 9-to-5 job, human resources, and at this metal manufacturing company, so to speak. And then what happened? When was the moment where you're like, you know what, like enough's enough, like my calling is elsewhere? And what was that transition like for you to leave that 9-to-5? I mean, did you immediately hop into coaching, or what was the next move for you?
Yeah, it was a really interesting evolution, Dino. So there was kind of 2 key points on that journey where they were the pivot points for me to do something different. So the first one was really my own internal things that needed to change. Like when I was in my corporate job, I was a stepmom. I was in a really abusive relationship. Like my whole life was completely different. I was like 70 pounds heavier. And I was so unhappy. I had a shopping addiction. I had all these things going on. So the first part of the story was me really shift my own health and wellness. So that's when I discovered coaching, because I hired a coach. I also found out about network marketing because I was using different products and stuff to support me on my journey. And that was kind of my first taste and glimmer that like there's other options out there in the world. So that started with my own transformation of like losing weight, leaving the relationship. So like the one misaligned piece of my life at that point was still my corporate job, because I had made the leap, even though I had got rid of a lot of things that were no longer serving me. And then the second layer of that came when I had, like I said, got really good at firing people, which was so not a skill I really wanted, but I had let go of well over 100 people. And I went from people really liking me at work and being excited to come to my office. And, I was hiring the plant that I felt like I was. And it kind of all came crumbling down when one day I paged an employee for his birthday to my office, because the company would give everybody a $20 cash gift card on their birthday. So I paged this man to my office for his birthday, and I was facing onto the manufacturing plant. And so I could see all like 300 employees out there, and it literally took him 20 minutes to come to my office because he hugged every single person in the plant and then came to my office. So I'm like watching, waiting for him to finally come. He came in, and this guy was like 50, and he like literally went on his knees and was like, "Miss Jenna, okay, I'm ready." And I was like, "Happy birthday," and handed him his card, and he started sobbing and crying. He's like, "You're not firing me today? I go home to my family today with a job on my birthday?" I was like, "Yes, I'm just giving you a happy birthday card." And he's like, thank you. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful you're not firing me." And I was like, this is so not what I am meant to be doing. So that was like the moment where I was done, and decided like I just had to make a leap, because up until then I had been dabbling in network marketing. I had started building my coaching business, but very non-committal, part-time. I was also doing healing work. I was like doing all the things because I didn't really know how to build a sustainable business. And I just kind of took a huge leap. I don't always recommend this, but I had no exit plan. I was tens of thousands of dollars in debt from my ex. But I quit and just had a little bit of a disillusioned plan that I'd become an instant online millionaire overnight, which quickly realized it takes a lot more grit and time and work to get there. But that's how it really started, is I quit and took this like huge leap of faith that it was all going to work out, and that I'd figure it out with my 200 different modalities that I was coaching in at the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple things, right? Is what I heard there first off, which I think is so awesome, is, well, yeah, gruesome job with, I mean, that story of the 50-year-old coming in on his birthday thinking that was it. You know, it makes it makes sense you left your job. But what I thought was so cool that I pulled out of that is that one of the first things you did was hire a coach yourself. And then
Yeah.
you experienced transformational results, and then you're like, wow, like this stuff works. Like it's helpful to have a coach. And that kind of led you to like your mind kind of expanding, like, wow, maybe I can also help others with you know, different areas of their life. And so then you launched your coaching kind of biz after you officially took off. And so tell us about that. Like, how did you choose your niche, and what were you called to do? And did any of that ever change over time?
It has evolved a lot. It was very messy when I started because, like I said, I was trying to wear all these different hats. So I was network marketing, and I was totally like that network marketer at the time, you know, where I had to tell everybody about these amazing products. That's even how I met my husband, was prospecting him on Tinder to sell him network marketing shakes. So I was really in it with that at the time. I became certified in personal training. So that was kind of my leap out of corporate. I thought that still felt kind of job-ish to have some stability. So I was personal training. I was working primarily coaching women on spiritual and life type areas. And I was doing all these different things locally and trying to make it happen online, that I eventually realized, and it evolved into the niche that is now Soulmate Strategy, that I'm not a very good personal trainer, in total honesty. Like, I'm not passionate about anatomy and biology. So it's like, this is not a long-term career for me. I'm going to end up injuring somebody, because what I really wanted to was just coach them. And I was working with all these amazing women in their life and in their mindset and their spiritual evolution themselves. And what it always circled back to was them wondering how I quit my job and how I started a business. And I started to realize I was really good at that. And I actually had a lot of experience in business, between corporate leadership and going to school for business, building my own business, and all the other things I had done on the side of trainings and everything else. So eventually there came a point where I realized I had to focus in, because I was trying to do too many things and none of them really that effectively. So business is what I was the best at, what I was most passionate about. And when I say business, I also include leadership into that, because that's such a big part of business and what I do, but I dropped a lot of the spiritual and the life and the personal training to focus in on what became Soul Meet Strategy. And it really took off and got focused when my now husband and I decided to start traveling full time and live the whole digital nomad lifestyle, where we realized like now it was really real. Like we were going to be traveling, fully having to sustain ourselves, and to build a fully online business where we took out all the local kind of cushions that I had built for myself of local clients. Like we had to be really clear and focused of what the heck we actually do. So that was kind of the final point where I chose what my niche was.
Mm-hmm. So it started more, like you said, as a comprehensive thing where you were doing kind of like intuition stuff and soul stuff, and now it's focused more on particularly leadership, growing your business. And I think that's so cool that you and your husband took off and traveled the world. And you have a cool story behind that, because the business really started to flourish at that point, if I understand correctly. I think a lot of people are going to be really going to like this part of understanding what that's like. That's kind of the dream, right? To travel and run your business and run a successful business at that, very successful business. So what were the components that had to change in order for this to 100% be moved digitally so that you could work with clients remotely? And I guess that's the first question. And then the next one I'll ask too, right, is I think a lot of people listening in are going to be like, well, were you still able to sign clients back in the States or back in Canada while you were away on the road? Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, on the first thing with the travel full time was, I think a lot of people have this vision that you'll be sipping coconuts on the beach, clients are rolling in, cash is flowing in, and you're hardly working. And I kind of had that vision. So when we started traveling, I mean, we're a little bit different, I think, than most online entrepreneurs that you typically see online, where our vision wasn't just like living on the beach, rolling it all in. Like we converted our RAV4 into a camper van, and we're like roughing it and going on backpacking trips, and then eventually started upgrading into like Airbnbs and then global travel and so on. But even at that, when our costs were extremely low, there was like some huge awarenesses that I hadn't even considered of the importance of good internet and the importance of things like time blocking, where I just thought I could show up whenever I wanted to and the money would just come. And we started to realize like you have to treat it like a business, not a project. And that was the first thing that I really learned with the global travel side of things. And even just like in North America, because we're in Canada, and that's where we started our travels, was, we actually have to show up regularly, and we have to set boundaries in our relationship and within ourselves and for our clients, and really start to treat it like a business. Whereas I found, because I had so many things going on locally, it was really easy to make it seem like I had this really productive business that was happening, that was really effective, when actually there was a lot of gaps. So all those gaps and bad habits came to the surface when we started traveling. I always say entrepreneurship, relationships, and travel, like those things are some of the most triggering, healing things you can do, because they're all like a huge mirror for you of what's working and what's not. And you put all those things together, and it's like a catalyst for, well, either growth or a really hard time. So we really use that as a catalyst to go, okay, here's what's not working, here's what needs to change. And that was really like the reason like why we were able to scale up, I think, quite fast and have a lot of success, was because we were able to use that to constantly show us our gaps and constantly show us where we needed to grow. And if things were happening where we weren't making the money we wanted to make, or signing the right clients, or weren't having the right boundaries, it was always a huge indicator for us of like what we needed to change. Because when you're trying to coordinate travel of, working from Starbucks or whatever you're trying to do, it's like you have to be really effective with your time.
Yeah. And let's talk about that, because I think this is so interesting, and I think people will get a ton of value from this. But there's two things you said, and we have some exercises we can get into as well, I think that you said you could share. But let's talk about first time blocking, like what that means as a successful business owner? And then two, I've always enjoyed this metaphor that you've brought up of looking in the mirror. And I was going to see if we could explore that a little bit deeper and what that really means, especially as an actual online coach.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of time blocking, I went on both spectrums. I started by not really working much at all, just thinking money was just going to flow in because I was having fun traveling. And then we started time blocking, and I actually went too far the other way for quite a period of our travels where I actually became really addicted to working. And I think this is something that doesn't get talked about that much, or not enough in the industry. And it became especially relevant for me with my travels because I didn't know anybody. I mean, I knew my husband, but we run our company together. So when we don't know anyone, we're in foreign countries. A lot of the time, unless we were doing something really cool, like going for a hike, it was really easy for me to just work. So I went from like not working enough to overworking myself into burnout and adrenal fatigue because I didn't really know what else to do with my time because I didn't know anybody and we were in these strange places. So what I have found on my journey between both of those things is it's a synergy between the two. Like there was so many times, like I remember we were on an amazing road trip in Australia and I'm like literally like tapping phone data, trying to do like sales calls while we're driving along the beach. And I wasn't present for the adventures, you know, and then I'm back at our Airbnb working more. And what I realized is like blocking time is not just for work, but intentionally blocking time for like self-care, relationships, adventure, fun, so that those things happen and you're like fully present for them. And then also intentionally blocking off time for your business activities. And what I still practice today that I brought into the business when we were still traveling was Saturdays and Sundays are like off, like no business, not unless I feel inspired with an idea or something, but like no actual client delivery, you know, heavy business stuff. Mondays and Fridays, at least for me personally, it works really well that those are like project and task days to actually get things done to move the needle forward in the business. And Tuesdays through Thursdays are client delivery days and sales calls and connection calls. And if somebody had taught me that like years ago, that would have changed everything with my time management because, like I said, I've been on both ends. I've had times in my calendar where you could have booked in with me at 6 a.m. or midnight any day of the week because I just wanted to be available, especially because we were traveling. And I was like, oh my God, I had this story of different time zones. And so I just needed to always be available. And that also led to burnout and also not attracting the right people into our business at the time either.
And it's so interesting you say that because I think so many entrepreneurs have that experience of burnout and going so far down the rabbit hole one direction or the other, where you go on vacation and you get back and or something like that, and it's like hard to get back into the swing of things. You're like, why, you know, maybe I should just escape to another country and live off a couple $100 a month type of thing. I love how you time block now, with the other end of the spectrums, Friday and Monday being your project days. And then Tuesday, Thursday, kind of client activities. So that's super amazing that you shared that. And I wanted to also ask you, so one of the things that I think we've kind of discussed a little bit beforehand as well is you have this really cool exercise for attracting abundance into our lives. I believe you call it the allowing exercise. How does that work? Because I think everybody listening in would love to understand how right now, right, they could walk away from listening to this show and go, here's one thing I can do right now that Jenna's teaching. How does that work? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I would so love to share this and to pre-frame this super simple, actionable activity that you can be doing. One thing when it comes to abundance that I think would be really valuable just for people to tune into before they try this is what I call the money set point. Because if you're not where you want to be financially, and I think for most of us, we're not, because as human beings, we want to keep growing and evolving. And it's like, that's part of it, is most of us get to the milestone of whatever it is, 10K, 50K, and we're like, okay, what's next? And we're expanding our money set point when we're doing that. But if you feel like you've been at the same set, like the same point in how much you're making, chances are you're hitting your capacity of how much you're actually comfortable receiving. Usually this is rooted in worthiness issues of, you know, whether you've been taught your entire life that you have to work really, really hard for money, or, you know, money causes problems. Like that could be a whole episode in itself. But most of us aren't comfortable actually receiving the money that we say that we want to receive. So if you're setting a goal that you want to your business, but you're not actually comfortable to receive that money, there's a gap there and there's a disconnect. So you can easily identify your capacity. It's almost like a thermometer on a house where, you know, I don't know what it is in the States, but I know in Canada, room temperature is like 21 degrees Celsius. So just, I'll use that as the example sake. And if you find that you can get a little bit higher than that, you know, maybe you can get to 24 degrees. But once 24 degrees kicks in, the house cools itself down to bring it back to 21. Or if it gets too cold and it's 18 degrees, the furnace kicks in to get it to 21. That's what people do with their financial realities. It's like if they get a little bit past what they're comfortable receiving, it's like they take their foot off the pedal, whether that means that they take some time off or they stop trying to do lead generation, whatever it is. It's like they take their foot off the pedal to bring them back into comfort. And then the same thing happens too, where we'll let ourselves go a little bit lower. And then we get into like, oh shit, I better hustle mode because I'm not where I want to be at my baseline. So whether that's 5K, 50K, whatever it is, if you're listening to this, that's the first thing, is just to get aware of like, what's your range of like what you've actually been allowing yourself to make in your business. Does that make sense so far?
It does. It does. Yeah. Well explained.
Okay, cool. And then this allowing exercise ties into it because of that whole idea of the capacity to receive more money. A lot of the time we're not available to it and we're not actually in allowance to receive the things that we want. And on a deeper somatic subconscious level, it's because there's all these different blocks and things. And what I think is really cool is that there's so many amazing coaches, mentors, people out there who are doing like the deep somatic work and the inner child work and all this stuff that's super needed. And I think it's about also having tools that you can use just in your day-to-day outside of doing like the deep work. So you can release some of those things. And what's really cool with this exercise, I know I'm hyping it up, is that you can start to release this stuff without even consciously really knowing what it is you're releasing, but it's going to help you expand that stretch point. So allowing exercise is really, really easy. When you find you're hitting resistance,
I'm excited.
And you can use this in any area of your life. I know, it's awesome. I do it every day. I do it in the shower. So you can do this anywhere. I find it works best to do it out loud. I like to do it in the shower or from outside. I mean, it might be kind of weird if you're sitting there with your family or whatever, just saying it, but you do you. Anyone can do this however they want. But basically what you do, you hit an area of resistance. So let's say that you're really resisting sales right now and you know it. And you're like, okay, well, why am I resisting sales? You're like, well, I'm fearing a lot of rejection. You know, like most of us can kind of get a little clarity of what's going on when we're hitting some sort of resistance. So let's say for the example, someone's really struggling with sales right now. They're feeling just like this charge. Anytime somebody says no to them, they're really worried about being rejected. So allowing exercise, you close your eyes and you say it. I'm allowing sales. I'm allowing rejection. But the key is that you keep going with it and you don't know what's coming out next. It's like you're opening Pandora's box. So I usually suggest, because as humans, we like to get the easy way out and we'll stop when things get kind of hard. So I suggest setting a timer for like 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and just keep going. So what it can look like is this: I'm allowing sales, I'm allowing rejection, I'm allowing money, I'm allowing abundance, I'm allowing freedom, and you just keep going and going and going. And what's really cool with this is like you can pull shit out there that you did not even know that you were not allowing. So Like I see people and they keep going with this and it's like they hit a floor and they just can't seem to go any deeper into this floor. And so what that looks like, if you're doing this exercise and you're like, I'm allowing, and you can't think of anything anymore, at that point, it's because you're probably getting really close to saying the things that you've buried deep down that you're not actually allowing yourself to experience. So if you hit that wall, it's like, I'm experiencing black, I'm experiencing darkness, I'm experiencing nothing. Like, keep going and digging into that floor, and you'll find what's actually under there. So then you can, integrate that into your deeper kind of healing work that you may be doing in your life right now. But even if you're not, just the actual verbalization of that can be so clearing and create the space for you that you actually can allow more abundance and more money and more love and all these things in your life, because you're actually starting to be more in allowance by doing this really simple exercise.
That is awesome. Awesome. I'm so excited to try this. I'm going to try this right after our call here. I'm really curious too. So when you're sitting here doing this exercise, right, and you're just, because you're free flowing, right, and you're just saying, I'm allowing, there's no right or wrong way to do it, and there's no, I need to focus on positive things or anything else, right? You're just, whatever comes to mind, you're letting flow. Is that right?
Exactly. And every single time you do it is going to be different. Like there's times where it just goes into the love and the light, and everything is just really positive, and it's a very clearing exercise of just being just open to receiving those things. So, it might be like, I'm allowing money, I'm allowing wealth, I'm allowing friendship, and it just is like this really positive one. And then there's other times where you might feel like it's like the shadow shit, where you're like, I'm allowing trauma, I'm allowing abuse, I'm allowing bullying. And it's like, you're digging through all of that though, where it's the same thing. It's like, it's being an allowance of those experiences that you've had, so you can actually open yourself up instead of holding on to these things that are actually serving you from receiving the very things that you want in your life.
And I'm so curious to do this one. What's going to come up? I will send you a message when I get to the end of the rope. I'm not sure if that'll happen in the first session, if it normally does, or if it takes some practice and a week of doing it. I'll let you know what's down there. I'm super curious now. Thank you so much for sharing that one with us here. Well, let's do this, Jenna. Let's transition a little bit, because I want to ask you, I mean, so many people listening in, right? They want to start their own coaching business. They want to grow their coaching business to 6 and 7 figures. Tell us about what coaching has done for you, like, and how has it changed who you are and how you operate, and what does it mean to you at this point, and especially since you're working with your husband, which I would love to touch on as well.
Yeah. Well, in regards to how coaching has changed things for me, honestly, it's changed everything, because I always say, like, the client is the one who's doing the work, but the coach is the person who is holding the space for them. It's like the guiding of the transformation to help get them from A to B. So, I mean, coaching has changed everything for me, whether it's overcome eating disorders to, working with a personal trainer and a nutrition coach on weight loss to, a lot of it is really for me, and I think for so many, whether it's business and entrepreneurs or if it's life, most of the time that people are getting coaching, the deeper root of it is self-worth. Like, whether we know it or not, it's usually self-worth of having more or being more. Like, I know for me, when I was in a really bad relationship, all these things were going on. I was also, I was selling weed at the time. I was selling drugs while I was in university. Like, it was just a totally different life. I had a shopping addiction. Everything was so different. And it was a total reflection of my self-worth at the time, because I didn't feel worthy. And so what I would do is use all this other stuff as a distraction to not actually have to look in the mirror and get to know myself. So the coach was the person who was able to hold up the mirror and then not only help me see that, but then help me integrate all of those things. And it was the same kind of thing with my business, which was also really triggering at the time. But to realize, like, when I was really addicted to my work and burning out, it was like a whole new layer of that healing, because now I was just using my business to avoid my own shit. So the same thing. It was like, even though it was a business coach, they were able to hold up the mirror and help me see my gaps, because we get so close to our own journey, our own business, our relationships. It's really hard to see the gaps. It's really hard to take ownership and then make the changes around that. So having somebody there to not hold your hand, but somebody who's there, who's got you, you know, they're your teammate to success, has literally shifted everything for me, both personally, financially, in my relationships. It's been like a complete paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm. And I love how you said right there, sometimes you're just too close, because I see that so much. It happens to me all the time where I'm too close, and then I'll go to my coach or my mentor and I'll be like, here's what I'm experiencing and dealing with in business and XYZ. What do you suggest? And oftentimes the solution is so simple. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did I not see that or realize it? And it's just like you said, it's because oftentimes we're so close that we need that second opinion and that overview that somebody's able to do, because they're not emotionally attached to the business otherwise, or what you're experiencing individually. So I love how you explain that.
100%.
And yeah, and you guys right now, because you got this cool background, if for everybody who's listening in, Jenna's sitting here in this awesome log cabin. So tell us, I mean, this is really cool. And I kind of spoke about this at the beginning that we would touch on this, but you guys just bought an awesome new home in Canada, and you have some amazing plans for what you tend to do with the property here. You're on 25 acres, I understand. So what do you have planned here, and what are some cool things that you guys are working on right now?
Yeah, so lots in the works, and the bigger vision for us as people and leaders, and with our company Soulmate Strategy, is not only with this property, but the bigger vision over the next year or so is to actually buy like 10x this, so about 200 acres, where we're building a conscious leader eco village, essentially. So like a modern day commune for conscious leaders, where we'll have 4 or 5 different families of fellow entrepreneurs living on the property, which is going to be amazing for collaboration and all those kinds of things, but also a retreat center that is being built on the property as well, for leaders from around the globe to come together to host events, you know, bring together their community and tribe, and then have the support of fellow leaders on site to help them, you know, really bring their magic out there to the world, whether it's business, whether it's in the life space, but to work together in the way the industry is really changing right now, where people are more community driven. They want more human to human connection. They want more experiences. So that's a big part of our mission, to bring that really to life in a really different kind of way.
And I'm excited about this, because I haven't heard anything like this yet. And so tell me about the vision here for this eco village, right? You guys will be living there, but you said other entrepreneurs, conscious entrepreneurs will have opportunity to live there as well. Do they live there permanently, or is it kind of like people come in for 3 months at a time? Or what is the vision you guys are holding here?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. I mean, Spence and I will live there and have our, you know, our forever home that we're building on the property for ourselves. And then the plan is with 4 or 5 other families, where they'll each have a long-term home, you know, that they're committed to. I don't know yet if they're going to rent it or buy it, but the plan is that they would have, you know, 5 acres or so each, where they will have their own property within the bigger property to themselves. And then in addition to that, we're planning to have yurts, mini homes, like a whole bunch of different options for leaders to come in and basically be able to recharge. So whether they're coming in and they want to rent it for a year, or if they want to come over for a week, you know, they don't have to come to attend an event. There'll be opportunities for people to come and just get immersed in that kind of community for themselves, without, you know, a long-term commitment necessarily of immigrating to Canada, because I know a lot of our tribe is from all over the world, but, you know, it gives people an opportunity to really tap into that in-person community while still being able to run their business online as well, you know, with technology and Wi-Fi and all the good stuff.
Awesome. And I'm so excited to see this come to fruition because I already kind of see it happening with you guys moving into your new home right now, where you're sitting in the log cabin. You already have 25 acres. I can only imagine how quickly you guys will get to that 100-acre property. And this is going to be, I think, an industry changer. I haven't heard of anything like this. And I know people are craving personal attention and connection, being around like-minded people. So how awesome. I'm really excited for this one. And we'll definitely catch up with you on your journey here. So I'm very curious, and I think others would be as well. I want to go a different direction for a moment because everybody at different stages of their entrepreneurship and their coaching career and their business and life in general has the roller coaster of ups and downs. I think it's safe to say everybody experiences them. Normally people love to talk about the ups and the cool things and how they made those things happen, but to help others as well, like what is something you recommend to do? Like if you're noticing that you're not in the flow that you'd like to be in, like business wise or relationship health wise, anything else, do you have a recommended technique, strategy, or exercise that would pull you out of the rut, or is that the allowing exercise that you would recommend there?
Yeah, so the allowing exercise is definitely one of the big ones. But a couple of other things that I do, number one, and I mean, this could be a whole training, so I'll keep this short and sweet because it is simple, is whether you're a man or a woman, we all have a lead energy or a core essence to us, whether it's more feminine or more masculine. So a lot of the time, if we're feeling out of flow, it's because we're out of flow with one of those two things. So if you're, I'll just say an example of a feminine woman who's been hustling and just like trying to do and do and do, chances are like you're not going to feel very in flow. Or if you're a man who feels like you're disconnected from your purpose, you're, not actually leading from your energy of the way you want to be showing up, same kind of thing. If you feel like you've just been feeling too much without actually seeing any action, it's going to feel out of flow. So first one is identifying and checking in with yourself and just making sure you're clear of which one is your core one. Obviously, as humans, we all have both, but which is the core? And then from there, using strategies like simple ones, such as if you're more feminine and you've been really in your masculine, then chances are you need to create some time and spaciousness by doing things such as scheduling for you to have some time to just be, without having to do things. That's been a huge thing for me, is to be and to block time off to just go out into nature without things that I have to just be doing and getting offline. I know for my husband Spence, if he feels out of flow, it's like most times same thing, nature, like man or woman, feminine or masculine, usually getting outside is going to help you reset your energy. But I know for him, if he's feeling out of flow, he needs to do something that's going to make him feel like super on purpose and making him feel like he's actioning something really important. So, that could be chopping wood, that could be him doing a podcast, but it's like he needs to get into purpose with what he's doing. Whereas for more feminine people, it's oftentimes more like getting into creativity and not having to think so much. That often helps us really reset our energy. So, because I know you have both men and women listening to this, it's really tuning into like, what do you need? And knowing you don't need some crazy strategy. It's like you really need to do what's going to help you realign your energy and remove like the guilt and the shame and the stories that go along with that a lot of the time, of like, oh, I should be doing things on my to-do list right now or whatever it is for my business, and creating some pockets of time to do the human things that need to happen for you to feel really energized in your business.
And I love that. And the reason, and I love what you said there too, is because I think in this kind of day and age that we live in with social media, and everybody feels so much comparison. And as coaches and as business owners, we always kind of, like you alluded to earlier, right? We often hit a milestone, income marker or results marker, and we don't step back to appreciate it. And then, or otherwise we don't think we maybe deserve it, so we change what we were doing that got us there, and we experience these ups and downs. But I love how you said it's about, there's no secret strategy. It's just go do something that you love, that you're connected with, and don't feel guilty about it, and treat yourself, relax a little bit. I know that's a tough one for so many entrepreneurs, so I just love the way that you explained that. And I think that's a great learning lesson for everybody, is just really enjoy the journey, like you're saying. Remember what your why, what you're working for. Awesome. So Jenna, 2 more questions for you. This is one I always like to ask, and is interesting and stuff, like, because especially with your amazing story of traveling with your husband, and living out of your van, and launching this amazing company. And what are the tools that you primarily use? And we don't have to go through them all, but what are the tools necessary to run an online coaching business, like tools you couldn't probably live without?
That's a really good question. I mean, obviously there's lots of software and all that kind of stuff, but I think that the number one tools would be the time management side of things, like actually having structure and planning to our day. Other top tools is business planning, like knowing our yearly goals, our quarterly goals, so we're actually on track and on point with what we're trying to create with high leverage tasks. Like that's really huge. Other tools is our team of being able to not try to do it all. And, you know, even if you're listening to this and you're a solopreneur with not a huge budget right now, like even if it's just outsourcing your Canva graphics or starting a part-time VA just to help take a little bit off of your plate, like that has been huge for us in the growth of our journey of not trying to do and be at all. Like that's been a huge tool. Having a coach and a mentor has been a huge tool on this as well for our success of not trying to do it all. And it's really collapsed the time frame in terms of business growth to have other eyes on the business giving us support. Like I honestly, like I believe like simplify to amplify. So those have been like the top tools. And then outside of that, I would say kind of on a time management side of things, but when we're planning our day, to plan it the night before for the following day, like not to get up and be like, what am I going to do today? And the same thing with the week, you know, in advance, like plan that on your Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So when Monday comes, like you actually know what you're doing that week. And that tool in itself has like shifted everything for us of getting more done.
Yeah, I love all that. Simplify to amplify. I don't think I'll ever forget that one. And I haven't heard that one before. That is amazing. Simplify to amplify. And then you're so right. Planning your day, the evening before, the day before. A trap I've been guilty of not doing in the past. And so that's another amazing gem. So another amazing gem from Jenna. Final question for today is what is one piece of advice you would give to aspiring coaches or other coaches or otherwise just anybody listening? One final message you'd like to share with everyone?
You know, the message that comes through for me today is to be available to what you want to receive. Like so often as entrepreneurs, we have this vision, this big vision of what we want, but we lose sight of that a lot of the time along the way. So we get so laser focused on like the big picture of where we're going that we're not actually available to how it's trying to present itself to us and all the little milestones and things along the way. It's like we have blinders on. So the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is trying to give us what we're asking for, but we expect it to look a certain way. And then we're not available to how it's presenting itself. So it's very much to me about being available to what you desire, but then releasing a little bit of the expectation around how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to come to you. So, you know, put that into tangible business terms. If you're trying to go from 10K a month to 20K a month, like, you know, you want to get to 20K a month. So be available to receive that. Start feeling like, what would it be like to make 20K a month? Where would I put those resources? How would I conduct myself at 20K a month? And then stop trying to put so much pressure and expectation on exactly how it's supposed to come. Like, take the action of what you think it's going to do, but start being available to, like, maybe that 20K a month comes from a partnership you hadn't even considered. Maybe you get an inheritance. Maybe it comes from somewhere else. But you have to start actually, like, looking at things instead of being like saying no to the stuff that actually could be a yes for you if you tuned in for it, and instead saying yes to stuff that actually is a no. Like, so many people aren't navigating and feeling what actually is moving them forward, and they're just so, like, laser focused on things that they're disconnected from what's available to them, like, right now, which is going to speed up results as well in the business.
I love that. I love that. Being available to receive, picturing yourself who you would be, what you would be like when you have and met those goals, and basically how life would be differently, and start living that before you get there. Amazing advice. Well, Jenna, thanks so much for your time, energy, wisdom. It's been an absolute blast sitting down, getting to know more about you. Want to finish by asking you, where is the best place for people to learn more about you and your husband's business and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, we have our website, which is soulmatestrategy.com. Definitely feel free, if you resonate with me and our message, go check it out, and get in touch. And outside of that, we're on social media, and I pride myself and really am passionate about actual human to human connection. If you're listening to that, you probably got that vibe. So find me on Facebook, Jenna Madden, or you can search us up on Instagram. It's Soulmate Strategy is our handle. And then not only add us, but send us a message and let me know where you found us so we can add you back and follow you and support you and follow your journey as well, because we'd love to make the connection and meet more amazing fellow coaches and healers and leaders that are on this journey with us.
Awesome. Well, we'll do. Well, thank you so much again, Jenna, for being on the show. It's been great hanging out with you. We really appreciate it. And guys, we'll conclude this episode, and we will see you guys in the next one.